That I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the pledge and a moment of silence. If everyone would please stand. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me see. Okay, let's do a roll call. Ms. Stull? Here. Ms. Nichols? Here. Ms. Hale?
Here.
Mr. Safdie?
Here.
Mr. Davis is not present. Mr. King?
Here.
Ms. Handy? Here. And Ms. Stout?
Here.
And Ms. Boston is present. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And I have been asked by a lady in the audience if all board members would speak closely into their microphone. Sometimes they have a hard time hearing us. So if you would be so kind as to make sure that you can be heard.
I make a motion we approve the agenda. Second.
So we have a first and a second. Any discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have one community comment. It's a Mary, and I'm going to mess this up. Ziegler?
That's it.
Ziegler? Okay. If you would state your name, your address, and the topic in which you are speaking on.
My name is Mary Ziegler. I live at 32 Bluffview Terrace, Crossville, Tennessee, and I'm here to speak about work sessions.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for stepping up to make a commitment to our community by serving on the school board. It can be an arduous, time-consuming, and often thankless task, and I honor you for taking it on. But perhaps it doesn't have to be quite so arduous and time-consuming. At the October board meeting, a new idea was presented that's working well for a school board in a neighboring county. It seems to be a more efficient type of structure for discussing and conducting school board business. I do not understand the reluctance of the board to give this new idea a try. This structure includes work sessions, which would be monthly, could be monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly, where all the board members are in attendance to handle issues, to be brought up to date, to see the big picture, to have open and honest discourse, a chance to collaborate and to compromise. The board has said it's looking for team-building opportunities. Sitting around a conference table for discussions and decision-making seems a much more companionable exercise than sitting on a long bench and talking at each other across the room. Even being held as often as monthly, the 12 work sessions would replace the 33 committee meetings you required last year. To me, it just seems sensible to give it a try. I ask you to explore the possibility. See the opportunity. Your voters are watching. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to give each one
Thank you.
Shannon, grab one for Nick, will you?
Yeah. We'll get an extra one for Johnny when he's not here. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And Mrs. Skibble one too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ziegler. Next on the agenda is committees. And I had this put on there in order. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, and then we'll proceed to discussion. The motion I'm going to make is to dissolve the current committee members as voted on in September 23, and to adopt the original proposed members of approved committees at the same meeting.
I will second that.
Okay, so we have a first and second. The motion is to dissolve the committee members as voted on September the 23rd and to adopt the original proposed members of the approved committee proposed at that same meeting. We are open now. Any discussion?
We'll just ask why.
Yeah.
Because it became painfully obvious that having 4 on a committee is not going to work. And we have no other choice but to move forward in conducting business. And we tried one committee meeting and it was not successful at all, and we conducted no business. And we have got some policies that have got to, we've got to approve, disapprove, change. We've got to review because the laws have already changed. And in order to, 4 on a committee may work for other boards. It's not going to work for this. And we've got to be able to conduct business. And that is my main reason.
Couple of concerns. The committees are advisory only.
That is correct.
So we shouldn't need to have to pass anything by vote onto the board. We can still advise the board with what the committee has discussed or determined. And the second piece to that is we had 4 on a committee last year already. So
We did, and
we have operated with 4 on a committee.
And it worked last year. But we have got to move forward in conducting business. And this is my proposal. This is the only solution that I've been able to come up with. And a committee can vote and then bring what they recommend or they advised to the board. And this board has voted by a majority to operate under committees presently. And if that's what the majority of the board has voted to do, our code of conduct says we are to accept that and to support that. And that's what I intend to do.
I don't believe it's the number of the people on the committee that's causing the issue. I think it's that we've got some unresolved conflict regarding how we should move forward with committees that's causing the issue, not specifically that we've got 4 or 3 people on a committee.
Well, when you have a vote for 2-2, nothing passes. You can do that all night. If you have 3, it can either be unanimous, it can be 2-1, it can be 1-2. But at least you get something done. And I'm very concerned about this board being able to move forward and conduct business. Our employees, our students are suffering because we can't conduct business.
I agree. I think that's everybody's concern, that we move forward with a good operational practice.
Well,
And that we remove barriers instead of adding barriers for the administration, the staff,
I
and
think
students.
that we've had great operational practices. I think that there's room for improvement. However, you can't obstruct the operation of the Board of Education in order to push and highlight one issue. And there's only one issue that I see that is the concern of the Board of Education, and that is to conduct its business and support the children and the staff and the director of schools. Now, you're talking about an operational procedure, and I've thought about this a lot. There are many, many criticisms that you've had, and I think I agree with some of them, but those can be handled systematically and not by pushing, okay? Not by pushing. Now, at the last meeting, at the last policy meeting, we had Nick, who refused to accept the will of the Board of Education that we operate on as a committee. Just stood out and said, no, I don't want to do this. We don't need to have these committees. Now, the exact quote, I'm paraphrasing, and I probably am paraphrasing, not exactly, but if you look at the minutes, you can see where he just didn't want to move forward. And as a result of that, the chairman of last year's policy committee just threw in the towel and said, we can't conduct business this way. Now, there is a way to systematically effect changes. I have been involved in creating a policy that took 1 full year to make and to correct. No one said on the board at that time, oh, you know, you have to do it immediately, or no, this is not going to happen. It's just a thorough involvement and an opportunity to bring in differing opinions, but you can do that through the committee structure. And I think that's what I'm concerned about right now, is that you can't, it reminds me of the hippie movement back in the 70s and the 60s where people said, I want this change now. And people kept on saying, work through the system. And I believe we can work through the system. And I like your ideas, okay? I'm not disparaging you, okay?
Well, I think there's been a lot of good ideas put forth by different folks on the board. And I think the issue that came up in the policy committee meeting last time was that we were putting the cart before the horse again, and we were moving forward with committees before going back and addressing the policy to make sure that we're operating within policy. To make sure that the policy, the committee policy, reflects how we've chosen as a board to move forward, or how the 5 out of 4 board members have chosen to move forward.
The 5 out of 4 board members, by law, dictate what takes place.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and we are not
And if we
supposed to
go
question,
back-
we are to support.
And if we go back 20 or 30 years from now, in the past, we'll find out that committees existed, and they did the same thing, and the Tennessee School Board Association really hasn't changed its policies.
And if you look at all the other boards around us, they do something different. So everybody's got their way of doing things.
Right.
The bottom line is we want to make sure that our policy's in order and we're setting the right
Well,
example to follow those
We can do that.
policies.
We can do that.
That's,
But
that, for me, that's what I
But
took out of what Nick was
You can't stop the
saying.
process, you can't stop the board from functioning to wait to do those things.
Oh, there shouldn't be any stopping of it. These things
Well-
can be handled in board meetings.
That's good. Okay, point of order then.
Point of order. Okay, any further discussion? Yes, ma'am? It was the October, I'm sorry, I apologize. It was the October meeting. So that correction is duly noted, thank you. Any further discussions? Mr. Patton?
In order, and I'm just bringing this up because your policy under rules of order does allow for the suspension of Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. I don't immediately know if the form of your motion is consistent with those rules. And the only thing that I might suggest is that if the board is going to vote to do what is proposed to be doing, you might also consider suspending Robert's rules for the purpose of that motion.
I make a motion, we suspend the Robert's Rules of Order for the purpose of this motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay.
And again, I don't know that what you, and I'll say that, that is purely, I guess, a suggestion on my part that if there are any irregularities to it, that should,
It clears it up.
it should.
Okay, okay. So,
Is the board open to public comment?
no, sir.
I thought you should be in a work session. I thought
This is not a work
I am a
session.
constituent.
I understand that,
This is a special
but-
called meeting.
No,
It
sir.
says, and when I read the words, it says any interested
Point of order.
party should be able to comment.
I understand.
So you're refusing to allow me to comment.
Yes, sir.
Order.
I am.
It's a bully puppet. It's a bully puppet. Mr. Safdie bullied the rest of the board.
Point
members.
Mr.
of
Stout,
order.
I'm making it a matter of
please.
record,
Point
and I'll
of
stop.
order.
Please,
I'll stop right there.
let us please move on. Let the record show that that was Mr. David Stout, Ms. Stout's husband.
Whether I'm her husband or not is irrelevant. Point of order. I'm a constituent, I'm a taxpayer, and I'm a voter.
And you
that is-
could have signed up for
that is-
community
You have-
comments.
Stop. All of you, stop.
I've got this, Sherry.
And I have called point of order.
I've got
It
this.
needs to stop. I agree.
So no more Mr. Stout, please. Let us conduct business. So I'll withdraw my motion if you'll withdraw your second until we vote on the Robert's Rules of Order.
I removed my second.
Okay, the motion on the table is that we suspend Robert's Rules of Order in order to proceed with this motion. And I have a first and a second. Ms. Stoll,
Yes.
Ms. Nichols,
No.
Ms. Hale,
Yes.
Mr. Safdie.
Yes.
Mr. King,
No.
Ms. Hamby,
Yes.
Ms. Stout,
No.
and Ms. Boston votes yes, so motion carries. Okay, now I will again state the motion that to dissolve the committee members as voted on in the October 23rd, 2023 meeting and to adopt the original proposed members of approved committees in the same meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. We have had discussion.
I'd just like to ask and say again, did we not have the opportunity, did you not give us an opportunity by email to choose committees that we wanted to be on?
Yes, I did.
And those that responded?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I did.
And that was also prior to the meeting where it was on the agenda to discuss the committees. So some of us were waiting until the meeting till we discussed which committees we were going to put in place so we could voice our opinion on which ones we wanted to be on.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay.
So if we dissolve the ones that we put on the committees in that meeting,
Yes.
I actually make a move for us to just start from scratch and allow everybody to have the opportunity to say which committees they would like to be on, since some of us did not sign up for those ahead of that meeting, and it was at that meeting that we took the opportunity to explain the ones we'd like to be on.
Mr. Patton, would you care to elaborate on?
Well, one thing, I'll say this, your policy under duties of officers, one duty of your chairman, this is policy 1.201, is to appoint committees authorized by the board. Plain meaning of appoint is to assign members. And that is taken directly from Tennessee Code at 492205. So from my standpoint, I don't even know, frankly, that the board, I think the chairman that you voted into place has the authority to make these appointments regardless of a vote of the Board of Education. That's the policy as it's written, that's what state law says. But the fact that the board did vote on it in relation to its approval of the committees, this is probably the direction that you need to go. This is probably if it is the intention of a majority of this board to do so.
So how does that tie in then with policy number 1.3, where it says appointed by the chairman at the direction of the board?
Well, I I think where that comes in, my interpretation of that is that if the board votes to approve committees, then it is the chairman's job to appoint those committees.
And Jennifer White and Ben Torres also confirmed that same statement that you just said.
Well, my move still stands for us to have the opportunity to select the committee members for the committees.
I feel
To-
that
in order to
everybody
allow
was given
proper-
a chance ahead of time, and people chose not to go ahead and respond, and some people chose to respond. If you chose not to respond, then you were choosing to go ahead and be put on whatever committee that you were assigned to by not responding. Just because you were waiting to see what happened in a meeting, you were sent an email prior to the meeting to prepare you for that meeting, and you didn't respond to that. So that, you gave up your chance at that point.
Well, no, board business is to be conducted in board meetings, and that's via email, so it was official at the board meeting.
So the
regarding who was
question
gonna
was
be on what
asked
committees.
whether or not you wanted to be on a specific committee. That was a courtesy that was being given to you, and you chose not to go ahead and take that.
So
Because Robert's Rules of Order says that our board chair can appoint committees and committee members and also appoint the chairman of each committee.
You just suspended.
Yes, we did, but I am reiterating that she had every right to send the email, giving a courtesy to us to say what committee we would like to be considered for.
And we do need to make sure that there's proper representation on all these committees. Proper representation by different districts on these committees.
Thank you. So she moved that I don't even know what you did.
I made a move that we go ahead and restructure the committees, not just wipe them out and put them back to the initial, but we restructure them so that folks have the opportunity, everybody has the opportunity to make sure that they are able to serve on a committee that they'd like to serve on.
Becky, do we vote on the move?
If there's,
There's no second.
yes. If there's a second on the move. And
I'll
if-
second it.
Okay. So we're voting to completely restructure, not go back to the proposed, and committee members. Ms. Stoll?
No.
Ms. Nichols? Ms. Hale?
No.
Mr. Safdie?
Let me think about this just for a second. No.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
no,
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And Ms. Boston votes no. So we'll go back to the original motion. Any further discussion? Ms. Stout? I'm starting with you on your voting.
Oh, no.
Ms. Hamby?
yes.
Mr. King?
No.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
No.
Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
And board chair votes yes. So we will go back to the original committee members as proposed, and I'll get those out to you guys tomorrow so that it refreshes your memory. Next on the agenda is the collaborative conferencing. Julia, thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am.
The board, in Tennessee Code 495605, we have had a letter of submission to enter in collaborative conferencing. 15% was submitted, and from that, the board has to appoint an election committee to send out a survey in which, to all employees or all members, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody.
It's a special question committee.
Right, it's a special question. In the code, it actually calls it election commission or election committee. And the board appoints that committee. There's really two questions you ask, but you send it out to all employees.
Teachers only.
Teachers only.
Right.
Thank you.
No administration.
Okay, to teachers only, and if a certain percentage comes back, then you enter into collaborative conferencing. you then elect, the board appoints the negotiating team.
Yes.
Okay. So I knew we were under a January 1st deadline. In order, both committees have to be appointed, and we only have one meeting, that's December the 7th. And I knew we had to move forward with the, what'd you call it, special question? Special question committee. When I phoned Mr. Stepp to kind of get this underway, and discovered that that committee had already been appointed and it actually already met. The survey had already been sent out, and they were opening the results of that survey Monday afternoon? Monday afternoon, I think, is when I called.
So the previous meeting, we had talked about the collaborative conferencing, and my instructions from that meeting was go ahead and get it started, so that's what we did, but from a
Well, there was no vote.
that's where,
And so Mr. Stepp and I discussed this, and we took the liberty of doing an executive committee approval so that this committee and these results would stand, and then we could move on just to the election of the negotiating committee. We can do that. I've also spoken to Ms. Timpson, and I think she's got her members' list ready to go that could be submitted to Diane tonight, and we could get it on the December 7th board agenda. And that way we have fallen within our deadline, and we have met our obligations as a board. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the special question committee as approved by the executive committee, and the results thereof.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion, or does everybody kind
Do
of?
we get a list of those members that are on that committee?
yes,
Mr. Stepp.
you'll approve the board's committee.
Who, if you don't mind my asking, and just for the board's information, who was on that committee?
I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I will
Kim?
get that to you guys before next week, so we can make sure we can vote on it.
Okay, do we know what the results were?
Yes, so it met that the results were overwhelming for CCEA to be the negotiating team, and the board tonight is voting to continue, or to do the collaborative conferencing with that group.
Okay, so the results came in over the percentage required.
You only have to have 15%.
Right.
CCA had 60.8.
And how much?
60.8.
Okay. Well, the results go us.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, ma'am?
may I make a quick
No, ma'am.
question?
No,
Just
ma'am.
to
I'm not
clarify
taking,
something?
I'm not taking any comments. You're welcome to meet with any board member after the meeting, and they will answer your questions or try to. Mr. Stepp is available after the meeting. But I don't want to disrupt the meeting because we have another committee meeting right after this
And I
meeting.
understand that, I just wanted to make sure that as elected officials by our citizens.
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to make sure that we have a voice.
Okay, let's move on with business, please.
So the motion on the floor in a second is that we approve the special question committee as it was appointed, as it met, and as it was approved by the executive committee. And that I can't direct Ms. Timpson, but if you have your,
I'm sending her an email right now.
okay, and then Mr. Stepp, you can submit yours to Ms. Diane, and then we can put it on the agenda.
You'll see them all, yes.
Okay, perfect. Do we have a first, second, any further discussion? If not, Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
And Ms. Stahl?
Yes.
And board chair votes yes. Thank you. So that is underway, and we will meet our January deadline. Any old business? Any questions from the media?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
And we will begin the policy meeting at 6:15.